I'm optimistic that very soon we'll be able to reach an agreement.
I've discussed some of the outlines with my caucus that I think we are very happy with, and hopefully the Republicans are, and then we can get something really good done.
The only reason we do not have a full budget agreement is because Democrats continue to hold funding for our government hostage on an unrelated issue.
If we don't change the legislation, if we don't get rid of these loopholes where killers are allowed to come into our country and continue to kill, if we don't change it, let's have a shutdown. We'll do a shutdown, and it's worth it for our country. I'd love to see a shutdown if we don't get this stuff taken care of.
Some pretty spicy words there from all over the Hill today on that issue. Meanwhile, right now, live on the House floor, you are watching as they are voting on this stopgap spending measure, another short-term measure to get us to March 23rd. We'll keep an eye on that vote and keep you updated. Let's bring in our panel to help us do that. Fox News media analyst Howard Kurtz, author of the new book, Media Madness, Donald Trump, the Press, and the War Over the Truth. Rachel Bade, congressional reporter for Politico. And Jonathan Swan, national political reporter for Axios. Great to see all of you. Okay, so there's a lot of back and forth on this issue. The president said his words again, I'd love to see a shutdown if we don't get this taken care of. Jonathan, who got blamed last time? Who will get blamed this time?
Well, Democrats very clearly got blamed last time, and I think regret, some of them anyway, regret the way that it panned out. I mean, this time, if President Trump keeps saying this, it's very hard, I think, for the Republicans to claim that it's a Democratic shutdown. I made a few phone calls after those comments to try and figure out what happened. Was there a grand strategy behind it? It seems not. The consensus seems to be that it was an emotional reaction, and he's been hearing about deaths of people at the hands of illegal immigrants. So I don't know that this was a particularly strategic comment made by the president.
Yeah, because the conversation today at the White House, including in the briefing, was about the MS-13 gang and outlining some of these really horrific cases of people who've lost their lives.
And people forget, the president really means this stuff. This is one of the issues, this and trade, immigration. He really cares about this stuff, and he's thought about it for years. It's not like healthcare, where he hasn't really had fully formed thoughts. He really does believe what he says on this issue.
He does. It's something, Rachel, he talked about all through the campaigns, way early in the primaries, all the way through. And it was something people seemed to really respond to when he would talk about it in these crowds and in these campaign events. But today, when he brought it up, you immediately heard the Democrats say, that's what he wants. He wants another shutdown. And they're calling it the Trump shutdown, the last one, even though the Republicans tried to name it the Schumer shutdown, which is a little bit snappier. But they're still trying to blame each other over the last one.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's going to come down to a shutdown this Friday. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, even though the president made these remarks, are saying they're going to pass a short-term spending stopgap. And look, the timing of this is particularly interesting because Republican leaders in the House and Senate have been trying for months to get Democrats to drop their demands for a bipartisan DACA fix in order to do a long-term budget deal that gives the military stability, a huge priority for President Donald Trump. And it sounds like the Democrats are about to cave on that this week. And this is a huge deal. It's a huge victory for Republicans if they can get Democrats to vote for a long-term budget agreement without a fix for DACA. And the president coming in and saying, let's shut the government down, it has a lot of Republicans even scratching their heads at that.
Howie?
Shannon, the press is playing the president's remarks about shutdown as a big threat. It's not. It's a poke. It's baiting the Democrats. There's not going to be a shutdown. The president, I think, probably knows that. I'm not saying he wasn't sincere in his comments, but we have just been through. The Democrats played that card, and it wasn't successful. Also, though, the president knows, politically speaking, that although there's broad support in the country for the Dreamers, there is not for shutting the government down over this issue. So the Democrats have to decide whether they would rather have some kind of immigration compromise, if indeed it's possible to have one that would pass both houses, or whether they'd rather have the issue to campaign on in 2018.
Okay, so let's move on to another hot topic. We touched on this today, this issue of DACA, immigration, of MS-13, of folks who've lost their lives at the hands of, allegedly, in this case we're going to talk about an illegal immigrant, the Colts player and his Uber driver who were killed this weekend by a man who reportedly was driving drunk. He's here illegally, has been deported twice before. The president tweeting on this today, so disgraceful that a person illegally in our country killed Colts linebacker Edwin Jackson. This is just one of many such preventable tragedies. We must get the Dems to get tougher on the border and with illegal immigration fast. We've got a new Fox News poll that looks at this. How concerned are you about illegal immigration? 64% say extremely or very, versus 34% say not very or not at all. I mean, Rachel, people agree it's a problem. They don't exactly agree on the solutions.
Yeah. I think that it's sort of the same thing that you were mentioning in terms of Democrats wanting a solution for Dreamers but not wanting to shut the government down over that. Same thing with illegal immigration. The country, by and large, they want a solution for this, but again, not at the expense of shutting down the government. Look, the president today is talking specifically in this terrible tragedy with the Colts player about loopholes that Republicans have been talking about for weeks now. They say that illegal immigrants are often deported, they come back, find a way back, and they basically live here. This is an example of what we saw with this person who killed this player. So Republicans want to do something about that. It's controversial for Democrats. They're willing to talk about border wall money. But when it comes to actual immigration policies and actually picking people up and pushing them out of the country, that gets a little more tenuous, I guess, for Democrats.
It's also an issue that polls just miss. And the reason for that is the intensity. Like, if you are basically in favour of more high-skilled visas, expansionist immigration policy, the kind of policies that the donor class and the establishment in D.C. support, but Donald Trump's base does not, they're not, on the whole, supporting it with the same intensity as Donald Trump's base feel about immigration, how much they care about illegal immigrants and wanting to deport some of these people. The level of intensity and passion is so different, and we saw that in the Gang of Eight fight. They spent so much more money, the people supporting the Gang of Eight, than these immigration restrictionist groups, and yet the other side won in their dinky little offices in D.C. with no donor money, no establishment support. They won that fight. And it's because there's a lot of public passion about that issue.
I want to talk about another top story that the president often talks about, not so much in the last couple of days, but it's the success of the stock market here, hitting all kinds of new highs since he was sworn in. And Howie, today, after a couple of really rough days, it finished up 567 points. Where do we go from here?
Hopefully crawling back toward, the market was oversold and a lot of people were expecting a correction. But it's just fascinating. I've been saying on the air as the market has went to 24,000, 25,000, 26,000 that the press doesn't give the president much credit for the soaring stock market. And in truth, it's a shorthand. There's a lot of factors in the economy that go into stock prices. But I said, if the market had gone down that much, he would be blamed. And we did see that happening on Friday and on Thursday and yesterday. And so it seems to me that the press ought to be a little bit more consistent here. At the same time, the president has played a leading role in talking up the stock market as a major badge of success for his economic policies. When you do that, inevitably there are these drops, sometimes these plunges, and he kind of has to own this one, even though he hasn't publicly addressed it.
Yeah, and the White House saying today and yesterday they believe the fundamentals underpinning the economy are still strong, and they're going to stay focused on the long-term events that play out here.